Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. All right, if things look and sound a little bit different on this episode, that is because I am not in my hobby room. I am out in our kitchen slash dining area, set with the Dungeon Crusade fully set up. And I've had a few days off from work this past week, so I decided to kind of commandeer the dining table. We don't really use it to eat. We usually eat out in the living room. But I've commandeered the table and set up the entire game, and I've been kind of just slowly playing through a game of Dungeon Crusade. And it has been a lot of fun. I have to say that the game plays much smoother with that quick reference guide. Much easier to get to the table, much easier to remember and find the rules that you need to find to just get the game played. And then if you have some issues with it, you can very easily just look up what you need to look up in the rulebook, because the rulebook does have a good table of contents and a good index. I have never played the game fully set up with all of the boards, the sideboards and everything. And so it's nice to look at. I will be honest though that I actually do prefer playing on my smaller table with my binder system, which you guys can look at the one of the past videos in my Dungeon Crusade playlist to see how I play on a small table. And just using paper to keep track of the things that the dungeon UI board and the village board do. I find that much easier to do because on this table that I am playing on, I'm kind of like sitting in the middle here. I'm sitting on this chair here, and the table is about 6 feet. So when I'm sitting here and I need to get a card from the card tray over there, the card holder, I do kind of have to like reach quite far, and sometimes I can't reach everything while I'm sitting down, so it's kind of a stand up and play game. Whereas with my system to play it on a smaller table, it's much easier to stay seated and be comfortable playing it. But the game still does, even with the new guide and the quick start guide, and even with the evolved minion combat, the game still is very, very long. And that is okay. It is a unique game, one that does a lot of different things. And the setup was very long, especially if you're not used to setting it up. If you don't play Dungeon Crusade a lot, it does take a very long time to set up. But I just did things really slowly over the course of a week. I set the game up a little bit at a time over the course of 2 nights. I have been playing it in little bits and pieces, and I've really enjoyed my time doing so. One of the things while I was setting it up, I was reading the quests, reading some of the lore and that kind of thing, and just kind of trying to get my mind into the world of Dungeon Crusade, and that was a lot of fun. And doing it slowly and just kind of slowly absorbing the game as it's being set up and as I'm anticipating what is going to happen on the board, I found myself really getting into the feeling and the mood. And that was also strengthened by 2 books that I started reading this week. Now, people who have responded to my Sword and Sorcery series, some people have asked me, what is the most like dungeon crawling book that I've read? And I can safely say now that The Maze of Peril by John Eric Holmes is the most dungeon dive book that I have ever read. So this book was originally published in 1986. And it says that what race or races built the maze no one knew. In the opinion of the sages of Caladan, many layers of dungeons and underworld were laid down, one on top of the other. As the world crust was formed, so that now no one knew or even guessed how many levels extended below the surface. This whole book is about a party of adventurers exploring, plundering, looting, and fighting in a mega maze, in a mega labyrinth, in a mega dungeon. And it was definitely based on, Dr. John Eric Holmes is the author of many dragon short stories and longtime aficionado of the fantasy role-playing game Dungeons & Dragons. Characters and situations in this tale were inspired while he played D&D with his sons. And that is exactly what it reads like. It is not the most well-written fantasy or sword and sorcery or dungeon crawl novel, but it is insanely entertaining. And the characters are a riot. The mage is named Murray the Mage. And one of the main characters is Boinger the halfling fighter, and then there's a dark elf, and yeah, they just kind of like keep going into this mega dungeon and getting deeper and deeper and having to fight more and more powerful monsters while getting loot and treasure and dealing with the dangers of a dungeon. And so reading this book while I was setting up and starting a game of Dungeon Crusade was a lot of fun. A full review of this will be coming up soon on the Sword and Sorcery Saga series. And then another book that I just started reading, a small little chapbook here called Engor's Sword Arm by David C. Smith. So David C. Smith, kind of a longtime member of the later period Robert E. Howard Conan circle. And probably his most famous book, Sword and Sorcery book, is called Orion. Author of Orion, The Sorcerer's Shadow, and The Fall of the First World, and others. This was, early 90s was this published? 1997, so kind of late 90s. But DMR Publishing, a book company that is publishing new and modern versions of Sword and Sorcery, they found like a whole box of these chapbooks, completely new, unopened, never sold, from Forgotten Ages Press. And they started selling these on their website after they bought them for only $10 each. And this is a really nicely illustrated, nicely laid out book by David C. Smith. And it's not quite a dungeon crawl per se, but it has been a really fun read to get into again while experiencing the Maze of Peril and Dungeon Crusade. So both of these books will be featured predominantly on the Sword and Sorcery Saga series a little later. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to do a quick little video. I've never actually had this game fully set up with the two sideboards. So that has been a lot of fun. But like I said, I do prefer my small table solution. One of the reasons why, not just for the reaching and having to stand up and stuff, is there is so much on the table for this game that it is really easy to misplace things. You can very easily misplace chits and little things that you need. You set them down and then you look on the table and try to find them in this sea of components, and things get lost very easily. I don't find that when I'm playing my small table solution. I just find it easier to manage. I find the game easier to manage using paper for things. I am still using a paper character sheets that I made to keep track of hit points and essence and life force and that kind of stuff in the game. I don't like using the little sliders on the character sheets. I don't like having to pick these up every time and move a slider, because I'm usually keeping chits on the character sheets. And so moving them around, I find it to be kind of a pretty big hassle. So I just find keeping track of their stats on a piece of paper to be just as easy. I am just about ready to start one of the side quests where I need to kill a couple of champion monsters in a couple chambers here. So I am going to be fighting soon this Tenderfoot Warlock. Again, the art on the champion cards is so cool. I really like the champion artwork a lot. There are some really neat looking beasts in here. The Blackhand Sniper, Massive Viper, Vampire Assassin, monstrous spider, the Sisters of Faith, the Afflicted. So yeah, really cool art on the champion cards. Some of the more powerful ones here: the Elder Priest, the Succubus, the Black Hand Defiler, the Lich Queen, the Fallen King. Man, he looks awesome. The Archfiend. He always looks so sad to me. But yeah, really cool stuff. And I just have been having a lot of fun. I did find on my first treasure I opened up, Mahiliak, the Barbarian. Was really lucky and found this war bow here that he's going to give to Inwin Shadowleaf for her to use once she gets up to a high enough level. I am playing with a couple house rules. Let's talk about that real quick, and then we'll probably cut the video. The house rules I'm playing with are, first of all, I have removed all of the junk loot from the loot deck. So in this giant loot deck, there are about, I believe, about 30 pieces of junk loot, and they are exactly what it says. They are just junk. So I just don't find that particular part of the game fun at all. I don't like spending the time to get to a treasure chest, to possibly find some loot, risk some life and limb to get that loot, and then you pick up the loot card and it's junk, worth absolutely nothing. I don't like that. It's not fun. All it does is disappoint me. And so I play without the junk loot. And I just have way more fun playing with that. I am also playing with a system that rewards the heroes for uncovering traps. And the reason is because it's really easy to avoid the trap system in the game. Like, you can almost always walk around them, and you don't have to engage with them even if you take the time to set them up. And when you're not engaging with them, well, then you're also not engaging with all this amazing Dean Spencer art and the writing and the effort that Roger and the artists went into to creating these awesome traps. So I am playing with a very simple system that just gives me a little bit of a risk reward for triggering traps. And that system that I am playing with right now, it probably makes the game a lot easier because you get experience faster, but that is fine with me. So I'm playing where if I go onto a trap and I flip it and I pick my trap token, and if it is not a trap, well, then I play that like my character has disarmed that trap. And so for taking that chance to possibly trigger a trap and possibly take damage, I am giving 2 life force, which is 2 experience basically. If I go over a trap token and it is a trap and I successfully evade the damage, then I also give my character or the party 2 experience or a life force. If I trigger the trap and take damage, then that is the risk part of the risk reward system for my trap house rule. And the traps are really deadly. The traps can do more damage to you than a champion in combat, in the champion combat. And so I really just think there should be a reward system for risking the trap. And I mean, I've lost a lot of life, a lot of essence triggering traps. Inwin had a really bad time. The first treasure chest she opened was a poisonous gas trap, and it caused like 3 of my heroes to lose a lot of essence right at the beginning of the game. That was a really bad situation there. But I am sending her off right now to kind of like, she's on trap duty. And so she's going around and disabling the traps. And that is one of the things, like this game, the main thing that Dungeon Crusade does different is in just the amount of choices you have once the game starts. And it's kind of overwhelming how you want to approach the dungeon situation, how you want to approach your quest. You have your main quest for each quest table. You can have 9 quests throughout the game. And you want to send some characters out to do chamber combat. You want to send some characters out to find your quest objects. You know, you can send other characters out to gather treasure. You can send characters out to trigger traps, to do mining. You can send some characters out to thin the herd of the minions. There's all kinds of things, and it really is overwhelming once you start. The choices get a little more limited as you play through the game, because chambers and things start to get cleared out as you clear out each subsequent quest. But starting out a game of Dungeon Crusade is quite overwhelming, and you kind of just have to like go for it. You kind of just have to, okay, here's what we're going to do, and let's hope it works. And as things progress, you can start tailoring your strategy and your tactical decisions a little better. The game starts off really wide, and then it gets more and more focused as it goes. And that is a very different feeling than a lot of dungeon crawls do. So yeah, I just wanted to do another video on Dungeon Crusade. It did do the funding for the second Kickstarter, so that's good. Congratulations to Roger there. And this is probably be my final video of Dungeon Crusade for a while. We'll probably revisit the game once a little bit of that new stuff comes in for the updated stuff, and we'll take a look at the official printing of the quick start guide. So all right guys, I hope you enjoyed this kind of like scatterbrained collection of weird thoughts on a couple books: Engor's Sword Arm by David C. Smith and The Maze of Peril from John Eric Holmes. If you guys want a novel that reads like you are playing a game, a dungeon crawl, The Maze of Peril is something you will want to look out for. And just some other random thoughts on Dungeon Crusade. So all right guys, we'll take it easy, and we will talk to you later. Bye bye.